up, Taiwan? I am Olivier with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan is not being labeled a currency manipulator, at least not by the U.S. Treasury Department, but it's still on Washington's radar. In its latest foreign exchange report, the Treasury kept Taiwan on its monitoring list, which also saw 2 new European countries added to it. The release comes as the U.S. is deep in trade talks with countries around the world that are trying to head off potential tariffs. For more on what this means for Taiwan, we go to our reporter Chris Gorin, live in our Taipei newsroom. So Chris, why was there so much anticipation around this report?
Well, like you said, Jeremy, it's all about these trade negotiations as U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening tariffs on countries he considers to have unfair trade practices. Now, of course, no country wants to be labeled a currency manipulator in the middle of sensitive trade talks, and this time around, none were. There were several countries that met some, though not all, of the criteria the Treasury considers for currency manipulation, and that's how they ended up on this monitoring list. Now, those countries are China, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Vietnam, and Germany, all of which have been on the list before. But we also saw 2 newcomers this time around, Ireland and Switzerland. Now, Taiwan ended up on the list because it once again met 2 of the 3 red flag indicators. Now, those are that it has a large trade surplus with the U.S. and has a large current account surplus. But Treasury says it did not manipulate its currency through foreign exchange intervention. But of course, the U.S. trade deficit is a major concern of the Trump administration. And Taiwan does have the 5th largest bilateral trade surplus, meaning it sells more to the U.S. than it buys, while China maintains the largest surplus. Now, Taiwan may have avoided the harshest possible labeling here, but we're not exactly hearing sighs of relief in the country. And that's because being on the list means that tariff threats are still looming. And exporters are still uneasy, especially after a recent spike in the new Taiwan dollar's exchange rate.
其实我们的客户基本上都比较大，那其实都有一定的长年以来都有一定的路去怎么去做一些跟汇率有关的一些调整。所以对我们来讲，我们当然还是怕说，像前一阵子上个月出那种2天2、3块的哈。
Now that same company, Pegatron, a large electronics manufacturer, is planning to build a new factory in the United States in order to avoid potential tariffs. Now, Taiwan's central bank responded this morning saying that the U.S. has not asked Taiwan to allow its currency to appreciate further, but you can see how this combination of tariff and currency threats is keeping businesses on edge here. Jeremy?
Thank you, Chris. That was Chris Gorin, live in our newsroom in Taipei. The clock is ticking for a mass recall campaign that aims to shake up Taiwan's legislature. Campaigners looking to unseat politicians from the opposition Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party say they're ready for a final push, but the opposition has plans of its own. Leslie Liao has this report.
The political showdown of the year is approaching. And while the dates are not set, the battle lines are drawn up. In a perfect storm scenario, nearly a third of lawmakers could face losing their seats in a mass recall campaign that has been going on for months. And while lawmakers from both ruling and opposition blocs are at risk, these campaigners looking to unseat opposition lawmakers say momentum is on their side. They believe they have the petition numbers to trigger recall votes on 31 Kuomintang lawmakers. Meanwhile, they don't believe petitions to put ruling DPP politicians on the recall ballot will pass the threshold. The campaigners at this press conference say that despite what it might look like, they are not partisans or even necessarily fans of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. They say theirs is a grassroots movement motivated by something other than party labels. A big name here today, China-sanctioned semiconductor tycoon Robert Cao explains.
我们这次罢免是公民团体看到国家陷入一个大的危机，这个危机就是国民党的党工跟他的立委结合了共产党，正在想消灭我们主权， 把台湾变成另外一个香港。
Campaigners on the ground say even disillusioned Kuomintang supporters are signing to recall their own party's lawmakers.
是因为他们发现这个国民党跟他们以前认识的已经不一样了。以前的国民党犯错了，至少还会掂掂，现在不是硬凹，怎么样凹就是不会认错。
However, the clean sweep these organizers hope for is far from guaranteed. There's still time for the KMT to get its own recall campaigns rolling past the threshold, setting the stage for a fierce contest on both sides. In another part of Taipei City, a recall campaign against ruling DPP legislator Wu Peiyi is digging its heels in.
我们目前还有一个比较长的阶段需要努力啦，然后我们也是因为也剩最后一天了，那我们就尽量做，然后我们战斗到最后一刻。
On the eve of a crucial petition deadline, organizers here say they're going to keep their headquarters open all night to collect signatures.
我们要想说，就是希望大家，我们不管是支持者、中正万华的好朋友，还是任何人，想来这边跟我们聊聊天，然后坐在这边吃东西、喝东西，然后我们共同度过，用愉快心情共同度过这个罢免的最后一个晚上。
The unfolding contest is going to pit Taiwan's two political blocs head to head. And if these campaigners get their wish, a political earthquake is set to rock Taiwan's legislature. Alex Chen, Justin Wu, John Van Trieste, and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
A teacher has lost his Taiwanese status for obtaining a household registration document in China. It's the first such case since the government issued a new interpretation order in April. The Mainland Affairs Council, which governs relations with China, recently revoked the legal status of the teacher, surnamed Zhang, after he was found to have obtained a document for household registration in China last year. Under cross-strait regulations, Taiwanese people are barred from having household registration in China or risk losing their legal status in Taiwan. The council issued an interpretation in April detailing the Chinese documents that Taiwanese people are not allowed to hold.
那已经废止张立奇的台湾身份啊，那未来他如果要来台湾，必须要依照两岸条例相关规定申请入境许可，并经过同意以后才能够入境。
The council clarified that Taiwanese are allowed to hold Chinese documents that don't require household registration. U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping discussed trade in Taiwan in a phone call Trump is hailing as very positive.
I think we're in very good shape with China and the trade deal. We have a deal with China, as you know, but we were straightening out some of the points, having to do mostly with rare earth, magnets, and some other things.
Trump's more than hour-long phone call with Xi on Thursday focused mainly on trade. He said both leaders invited each other for state visits. The Chinese summary of the call said Xi warned the U.S. to handle Taiwan with caution and urged restraint on trade. The U.S. and China have been locked in a trade war, imposing tariffs on each other and raising tensions over rare earth minerals in Taiwan. On May 12th, the countries agreed to sign a 90-day deal to reduce some tariffs. Hopes for a Japanese moon landing on Friday were dashed. Tokyo-based firm iSpace was vying to make history with Asia's first commercial lunar landing, carrying Taiwan's first ever lunar device on board. Joyce Zhang has the latest from Tokyo.
A somber end to an ambitious lunar mission. Japan's iSpace says it has not been able to complete a moon landing. It's the firm's second attempt and comes just 2 years after its first go, which also ended with a loss in communication. iSpace CEO Takeshi Hakamada says as of 8 a.m. local time, 4 hours after the planned touchdown, the team determined that reconnecting with the lander was unlikely.
着陸ができておりませんので、その着陸に関してはですね、失敗という、捉え方で問題ないかと思います。ご支援をいただいてきた方に対してですね、非常に、申し訳ない気持ちもございますけども、やはりこの今までご支援をいただいてきたですね。
The unmanned lander, dubbed Resilience, was vying to become Asia's first commercial spacecraft to make it to the moon. So far, only 2 American firms, Intuitive Machines and Firefly Aerospace, have accomplished the feat. Earlier, over 500 people gathered here to watch Resilience's descent, including a team from Taiwan. Dr. Lauren Chang from National Central University and his students have a direct role in the mission as the makers of this device that's aboard the Japanese lander. It's a radiation probe and Taiwan's first ever lunar instrument. iSpace's flight data showed Resilience's altitude dropping suddenly a few moments before the scheduled landing of 4:17 a.m. local time. The room falling into several minutes of silence as those gathered awaited confirmation. iSpace was later able to confirm that the measurement of Resilience's altitude was delayed, which meant its actual position was closer to the moon than the team thought. On top of that, the spacecraft was also traveling too fast.
ミッション1と同様かっていうところでいうと、見られている現象としては違うものが見られています。ただ原因のところはこれからまだまだ探っていく必要がありますので、現時点では実際のこの同じ要因だったかとかっていうのは言及することはできないんですけれども、見えている現象としてはミッション1とは少し異なるような現象が見えております。
But as to what exactly those phenomena were, iSpace says it will take time to look at the data and did not say when they'd be able to determine the root cause of the failure. Despite iSpace now having 2 failed lunar missions, it's not giving up. They say they'll be analyzing the data to figure out what went wrong and apply those lessons to future missions like those already in the works. So a setback here, but not yet an end to iSpace's hope of making the moon more accessible, a goal that many companies and countries are racing to hit. Ethan Chen and Joyce Zhen in Tokyo for TaiwanPlus.
Calligraphy students in Hanoi are learning more about their French colonial past through ink and brush. Solange Chata takes a closer look.
Flowing brushwork. This is how 7 calligraphy students in Vietnam spend an evening each week.
Energetic activities don't suit me. Calligraphy is a way for me to relax after work.
Led by a calligraphy teacher in his own tiny home, they're reviving the origins of Romanized Vietnamese, or Quoc Nu, a writing system first introduced by the French when they colonized the country in the mid-19th century. This writing connects key chapters in Vietnam's history, from early Christian influences to the rise of the Communist Party, leading the country to independence in 1945.
I believe that it's in our blood, a gene that flows in every Vietnamese person, to love their traditional culture. The only difference is that as we grow up, some of us are fortunate enough to find environments where that love can flourish. Others may take on different roles to serve society, but deep down, we all appreciate it.
In the 1600s, after centuries of using Chinese characters, Catholic missionaries created a much simpler Vietnamese alphabet to help people read the Bible. During the 19th century, French colonizers replaced traditional scripts, paving the way for nationalist messages to spread across the country, creating a system that represents the many faces of the Vietnamese language.
Writing calligraphy in Quoc Nu is special because I can still use the techniques of traditional calligraphy. But we can be more creative in terms of color, shape, concept, everything.
Today, the distinctive marks of Vietnamese script do more than guide pronunciation. They tell a story of cultural resilience. Rooted in a colonial past shaped by centuries of change, the calligraphy is a reminder of the country's historic move toward independence. Heng Su and Solange Chata for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us here on What's Up Taiwan. Finally, we leave you with images of a sausage roll sculpture from UK grocery chain Greggs on display in London. Looks almost as good as the real thing. I'm Jeremy Olivier. Take care and see you next time.